Okay, love. So, I'm just gonna do. I'm doing three pestos as a tutorial. I'm starting with standard pesto, and I'm doubling the recipe because I like because I had so much bushels of it really from the garden and my dad's garden. So I toasted off an entire cup of pine nuts and I have 8 cups of basil. We're going to put everything all in the food processor at once. I just want to show you um, the other ingredients, which is a couple of cloves. These are tiny of garlic, pine nuts, basil leaves, and olive oil. That one has a flower on it. Keep the stem and take the flower off. I don't think it would be harmful, but it might be bitter. Also, this is like the end of the plant's life, so I'm just trying to use it up. I'm doubling this because I'll be giving some away. And if you see brown bits, you don't have to use them. Let's just put it all in like that. 8 cups packed. That came from one giant plant. So I'd like to add all of the pine nuts. So doubling this means there's a lot, but you know, it goes down very quickly. I want all my garlic in. This is too hot for my machine. Let's see if I can get it more visible. The garlic, and then because I doubled it, I have a cup of Parmesan. There's going to also be an entire cup of good olive oil, extra virgin, yada yada yada. So let's, if this doesn't fit, we'll just grind it down and put more in. So let's start the process like that. There's a leaf. Okay. I'm going to start it at low. I'm going to measure out the olive oil while this is chopping down. And I want to put a little more cheese in. And maybe half the oil. Oh, of course I'm making a mess. Okay. Half the oil. Because, you know, it has to be an emulsion. Otherwise, not pesto. Okay. High speed now. Rest of the cup. Get your salt and pepper ready. I see leaves are not entirely going in. And we want, smells amazing, just as it should. Going to do a pinch of pepper, pinch of salt, oops, hold on. I don't like too much salt. It can really ruin things. Going to get the spatula We want this as finely ground as possible. And then we're going to put it into little containers. Sort of, I'm going to use containers for 2. I'm also, let's try to taste it. Tasting it off camera. Yeah, it's really good. I think we really need to have that, the pine nuts roasted. And it's got a little cheesy effect, but I think I need more oil. And I want it to be, the what am I calling it? The leaves themselves are a little bit tough. So I'm going to puree this. Okay, so that's good, and that's a lot of pesto. So, individual containers into the freezer, and you're good for weeks and months of dinners. I'll be making 2 other kinds soon. Okay, folks, I have my dry pan up to a quite high heat. I'm going to turn it down, and I want to add various nuts that you may have left over and you don't know what to do with. This recipe for, which is basically an herb pesto, and these are the garlics, which I'll just put right in the food processor, 2 cloves. So I'm using pistachio, almonds, and these leftover crushed walnuts as my nuts. And I gotta toast me nuts, as Jamie Oliver says. I'm gonna put, they're gonna take a different amount of heat each, but you just keep your eye on it. The other way to do it is to roast them on a tray at low heat in the oven. It's a little safer. I think I would like, I put the walnuts, but you know what? I think I want more pistachios to make it a little special. I'll just throw a handful in there. So it's probably over half a cup. So I'm going to, this is, like I said, something to do with leftovers. And I have a lot of leftover herbs, which I'll show you in the next video once I have this under control, because you don't want to be running around explaining things. You see the smoke coming off? I have to turn it down a bit. You just want to flip them like that until you see little brown marks, which I already see. So I can't be distracted. I'll come right back when they're done. Okay, folks, so we're going to make a mixed herb and mixed nut pesto now, and it's often known as leftovers pesto, but it does not necessarily mean you're using leftovers. I am using some leftover basil from the previous video from the garden. It requires, though, that you use soft leaf herbs. So whatever they are, they should be soft leafed. Not, I would not use thyme, I would not use rosemary, and I would not use marjoram or oregano because they have woody stems. Now I'm using, putting in quite a lot of flat leaf Italian parsley, also from the garden, and it's absolutely fine to include the stems because they're soft too. Now I have leftover tarragon from my salmon dishes, and that's a soft leaf, soft stemmed herb. And what else am I going to do? I got to throw in some mint, and that's going to be pretty dazzling, which we like. And remember that I already measured this out. It's 6 cups worth of herbs. I love to include basil, even just a bit. There's some more basil, some more mint. If the stems are too thick, you could, you know, cut them away. But I love to add the basil just to have the reminiscence of good, of standard basil. So there's a basil leaf. Standard pesto. Standard pesto is, you know, familiar and comforting, and I do love to have at least some of it in my mixed herb pesto, but it's not necessary. Likewise for the nuts, which I've toasted. I didn't use pine nuts, but I used walnuts, almonds, and what else? Oh, pistachios. You could put pine nuts in too because they're creamy, but they're very expensive. I'm just using what I had left over, and they were toasted as you saw previously. I'm just rinsing the herbs now. There's an example of a stem that's probably too thick to use. Anyway, I'm just rinsing these off because at least half of them were in the garden. Now I have 2 cloves of garlic already in the processor, 2 big ones. Remember, I have 6 cups of packed leaves of herbs, so I doubled the recipe. So there's 2. There's the nuts, and that was originally a 1/4 cup. Now it's 1/2 cup. I just want to have lots left over so I can freeze them. There's 1/2 cup of shaved Parmesan. You could use grated, but my machine is going to grate it, so no point in doing it twice. I bought the shaved pieces on sale, so I'm using them. I'm going to finally, in the end, use an entire cup of Evo, extra virgin olive oil, but I'm not putting it all in at once. I'll start the blending in the food processor to get the nuts chopped up and the cheese combined with the herbs, and then I'll add 1/2 the cup of olive oil and continue. Now it's time to add all of the herbs. So just put them all in, stems and all. I've got quite a mix here, but I can tell you it's very delicious. Showing you that it was 6 cups worth of herbs. When I did the basil recipe, I used 8 cups. Okay, so we just pack it in. If a leaf looks brown, take it out. And now we're going to whiz it up in the processor. And like I said, I just want to start the process getting a combination of the garlic, nuts, cheese, some leaves, blended up. Like I said, you could use a blender for this. I just prefer my processor. Anyway, so we're going to blend it all up. I want to see that creaminess on the side of the bowl before I add the first 1/2 cup of olive oil, which is what I'm doing now. Through the feeder tube. Could be going while you do that, but not necessarily. So we're going to try to get all the herbs down, but of course there'll be a stage where you need to push down the sides for the leaves of the herbs which are sticking on the sides. You don't want like big leaves. You want everything the same consistency, a quite even consistency. So we do Push them down like one does. Now we're going to whiz it up, and we're going to try to get that even consistency before we add the last half cup of the olive oil. Which I'm going to do here while it's blending, while it's pureeing. I'm going to double check, push down the sides before we season it with salt and pepper, and you must not leave out the salt. But you also shouldn't over salt it. So I'm doing this. I do it for quite a long time. Probably not necessary to do a whole minute, but we do want to get those leaves off the side, sticking to the side. And look at the gorgeous green color from the herbs. You could at this point add a little lemon. I add it at the end just to preserve the green color. I'm not trying to make lemon pesto, which is also a favorite. It's also delicious. We should only have for this we want the lemon just to be a background flavor. And maybe it's just there to keep the leaves from turning brown before you freeze it. Now we're going to do a final pulse on high, get it all together, and there we have it. Looks good, smells, the aroma's fantastic. So for the final pesto of the trio, I'm making walnut pesto, native to the Liguria, the region in the northeast of Italy. And for that we need to toast up some walnuts. I added some pine nuts, not necessary, about 1/8 of a cup, a handful of pine nuts, and maybe a cup and a half of walnuts. We want them nice and toasty. Let's just make sure, all you want to do is, if you smell it, it's good. Okay, so turn that off and put aside. That's hot, so I'm just gonna keep flipping. Okay, someone on the floor, and stuff happens. I want to also mention that we are using leaves of marjoram. Leaves of marjoram. Marjoram is a close relative of oregano. I was quite surprised that we had today, of all days, when I wanted to make it, that we have marjoram. But the stems are woody, kind of like the woody stems of rosemary and thyme. So those can't be blended. The previous video where I did the mixed herbs pesto, they were all soft herbs. Anyway, so I'm going to keep picking these. I have this, I have my olive oil, I have my cheese, I have my roasted walnuts, and we're going to make Ligurian pesto from the area of Italy known as Liguria. That's it for now. I have 2 slices of sort of stale, semi-stale sourdough bread. It could be a dry white bread, and I'm going to add a cup of milk to that. We're going to then, let me wash my hands. They were washed before, but now I have to wash them again. So I'm washing my hands, and because we have to squeeze out the milk once it's, okay, soap and water. We have to squeeze out the milk. We have to soak the bread, and we have to squeeze out the milk, and we're going to save the milk because this recipe has very little oil in it. So it's kind of northern, understand that Liguria is in the northeast near Venice, or I'll have to look that up. But okay, so we're gonna squish out the milk and put the bread in the processor or blender like that. Hopefully the audio is recording. Hopefully this is recording. Yeah. And then you got to keep the milk because it's going to be part of how you get the some fluidity. You're also going to keep pasta water when you add it to the pasta because this is in fact made for Ligurian pasta. Trofia in this case, which I have. So now we have this. These are all my leaves of oregano. I'm just gonna put in the garlic and just a couple of these leaves because these are really just for the garnish of the pasta. So then I want to do the garlic and the nuts. So it's a nut forward scenario, and we want to break the walnuts, which have cooled. I mean, they're warm to the touch, but they're cooled. Okay. We have one piece of garlic in there. It might be fun to add another piece, but I don't think that's necessary. And though I would like to, for the purposes of this video, I don't think I will. So we're gonna pulse into tiny pieces. At this point, we're getting a kind of almost cookie crumble look. We're not trying to get a sauce here going at the moment. So I'm going to add the cheese, which is half a cup of Reggiano, and 2 pinches of salt. 1, 2, and then keep pulsing. So you can tell that this is an entirely different way of making pesto. That's going to be good, and then we're going to add salt, and then pulse again, like I said, pulse. And then I'm going to add the olive oil, which in this case is only 4 to 5 tablespoons. So it's light on the oil, heavy on the milk. Hold on, so let's go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to ladle in some milk until we get a kind of creamy. We want it to be creamy. These leaves I'm going to add to my pasta, okay? The marjoram. So now we're going to pour in some of the same milk that the bread was in. Let's see if I can do it all at once here. Okay. Let's try it. Of course, I spilled it. I can see that it's creamy, but I'm going to add a little more. It's not going to be the whole cup. I'd say 3/4. Okay. And now I'm going to add some pepper, because this is the final. Turn it off, and we want to put it, we're going to use some of this milk got caught up in the top here, so I have to be careful and put it right in the sink so I don't spill it. But anyway, that's the look of it. It's creamy, smells amazing. And then this is going to be watered down with pasta water. So you have to think of this as a twofer. You have to think of it not separated from the pasta making, because you want to have this paste watered down with the pasta water, and when you're making the pasta. So looks really awesome. Tastes really awesome. Let's see if I can get a taste. Oh, that's really good. It's totally different and totally wonderful. Okay.